Team, today we're going to be talking about the Rebels design process. Now, this is like a 40-minute presentation usually, but I need to get it down to about half an hour, so I'm going to have to wrap through it quick. But you should get all the ideas you need from it, all right? So, firstly, who the freaking hell is MBJ? I have been in the design industry for 20 years. I started in a design studio. I then built my own design studio, Baby Giant, and now I am a creative partner in Lincoln Design Co. But my one mission for the next 20 years is to build the best design leaders on the planet. And that's what I want to help you do today, all right? So, secondly, I am not here to just show you my work. I don't think it's that helpful. I think it's cool to look at. It looks pretty, but what I want to do is I actually want to give you something tangible, something valuable that you can take into the real world, whether it's a mindset shift, whether it's a bit of process or something that you can start to rethink your own ideas and then progress into that design leader, all right? Finally, I have a very quick question for you. Are you a crocodile? Let me tell you a very quick story, all right? There are two huge crocodiles in the Zambezi River in Africa. A dead wildebeest is floating down the middle, and then these two crocs see it. What they do is they swim in and they start fighting for it. You know, they're both hungry, they're both in survival mode, and they both want to win. And what happens is the biggest crocodile ends up winning the feast. He drags it to the side, he eats the whole thing, then has a nap, probably. And then the other crocodile, the slightly smaller crocodile, goes onto the other side of the river and totally forgets about the whole experience. This is the really interesting thing, is that once that big crocodile has won his feast and eaten it all, he doesn't even think about what impact that has on the slightly smaller crocodile. And the slightly smaller crocodile, once he's gone through that whole kind of tragic event of losing his food for the day, he doesn't even care about the big crocodile. He doesn't even think about it. He's on to something else. He's probably also having a nap. This is because their brains have not evolved to cooperate. What they could have actually done is they could have actually spoken to each other, and they could have gone, hey, this is a pretty big wildebeest. Would you mind sharing it? Yeah, to be fair, I'm not that hungry. What we can do is we can split it in half. You take half and I'll take the other half. Bing, bang, bosh. Happy ever after kind of stuff. But their brains have not evolved to cooperate. Their primitive lizard brain is purely based on survival. They are effectively cold-blooded loners. It's not their fault, it's just the way their brains are wired. As I said, their primitive brains are focused on survival at any cost. That is their only mission when they wake up every single day, is to survive, is to hunt, is to eat, is to sleep, survive, stay alive. And that's also, let's be honest, why they're still here. They've been here for a long, long, long time, so they must be doing something right. We know this survival mode as something called fight or flight. And this is an innate instinct that's triggered by danger, triggered by predators, and you'll know it when you get into certain dangerous situations or when you see something bad happen, somebody has an accident, your fight or flight mode kicks in. It's innate, it's built in us, it's wired in us, all right? So something that you've probably heard of before, fight or flight. It's just that little trigger that kicks us into this kind of survival mode mechanism in our brain. Unfortunately, designers are taught to see their clients as predators. And we are being educated through a survival lens. The problem is what's happening is everybody's talking about profit, and rather than people, they're talking about the selfish process rather than the selfless process. They're talking about all these external wins rather than all these internal transformations. And what this actually does is this creates a a hugely toxic working environment, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us, whether we have a team, whether we're working with clients, because we're thinking or being taught through this survival lens. What we're actually doing is we're creating, like I said, this extremely toxic working relationship, and it's no wonder that all the creativity is being sapped out of the design industry, because it's all focused about money, sales, and all this twattery. Do you know what I mean? So clients are cold-blooded loners, but we are not. We need to focus on collaboration. That's how our species thrives, all right? We can go back to the Paleolithic times when we started to form tribes. And the reason we started to form tribes is because we started to realize that as we collaborated and as there were more of us in a group, in a tribe, we could actually do more things. We could start to hunt, gather, and make things easier for ourselves when we started to work together. It's all about this kind of oxytocin movement. Do you know what I mean? This love hormone that comes in when we work together. Do you know what I mean? All this goodness starts to happen. So what we need to do is we need to go from me to we. We is more important than me. So the difference between a me process and a we process is that when I think about a me process, I think it's very much focused on money and it's very much focused on ego. Whereas a we process is very much we. Sorry, my brain starts to trigger off on stuff. The we process is more about wisdom and it's more about empathy and thinking about others. So I really want you to start to think about how you focus on your process. Are you a me processor? Or are you a we process? Because we want to be moving more towards that we if we can. It's up to you, though. Do what you want. Do you know what I mean? To do this, we need to bring our clients into our process. What we are taught is this little diagram on the right-hand side here. We're taught to keep our clients out of the design process, keep them at arm's length. And what this is a one-size-fits-all design process. And what it does is it causes a lot of problems. So what happens is when we put the client on the outside of our design process, what it actually does is it makes them feel disconnected, it makes them feel suspicious, and it makes them feel apprehensive. Then this causes things like scope creep, micromanaging, lack of decisions. Any of this sounding familiar? And then what happens is designers feel a rise in self-doubt, a lack of self-worth, and a loss of confidence, all because we are pushing our clients to the outside. And that's not your fault. It's what we've been taught by the experts, all right? Shh, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're doing. So what is the solution? I believe it's this little diagram. This is a one-size-fits-one design process. And I like to call this creative mutualism. Now, what I see creative mutualism as is this kind of, basically the word mutualism is the coming together of two things to help support and work together, like a symbiotic relationship. And from my perspective and from my experience and from the things that I know about the industry, designers need clients and clients need designers. The problem is they're battling each other because that's how we've been told. Designers have been told to win at all costs and make as much money as possible. What it's doing is it's causing this friction. What we actually need to do is we need to bring the client in to create this safe environment for them, because it creates such a much better environment for working, creates innovation, creates success. Creative mutualism is the way forward, all right? The real voyage of discovery consists in not seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. This is a quote from Marcel Proust, who is a French author, philosopher, something like that. But hey, look, a presentation isn't a presentation without some sort of jazzy quote in it. So I thought I'd chuck this one in. But it's a really interesting one, is that, like, what we think we have to do is change everything, but sometimes all we have to do is just change our mindset and change the way we think. We do not need to doubt our creativity. We do not need to give up on our career, and we do not need to niche down if we don't want to. The only thing we need to do in this particular instance is just rethink our design process with a focus on creative mutualism. All right. This is what we are taught the creative process looks like, this straight line, A to B. Super simple, like easy peasy. I mean, if this was the creative process, everybody would be a designer, surely. But this process is predictable, and predictable is such an important word, which you'll hear me talk about more and more and more and more. But why is it predictable? Because at no point has the client been involved. The client brings the unpredictability in. And this is why I have so much angst, and it makes me a little bit angry that there are so many design education platforms out there, so many design educators, so many people teaching education for designers. And what they do is they create these fake role plays where they play the client and then another designer plays the designer. Like, they're bound to win. They've set themselves up for win. Like, imagine if you actually brought a real client into some of these conversations. I guarantee these tips and tricks and these wordsmithery, this word jujitsu just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't work in the real world. But it works when you're doing it in a role play. All right. So, you can see how passionate I am about this. This process does not exist in the real world. This straight line, this methodical, dogmatic, predictable process does not work in the real world. Let me show you the truth, and you all know this. Client 1, client 2, client 3. Like, we always get them from A to B, but the journey looks so different depending on the client, depending on the industry, depending on their needs, depending on their deliverables. How can we expect to do this predictable one-size-fits-all process when clients are all unpredictable and so different? Like, it's just never going to work. So it's no wonder that creative people are struggling with self-doubt, creative people are struggling with confidence, because when they take this predictable process that they've been told to use in the real world and it doesn't work, they doubt themselves and their ability when it's not you. It's the people who have been teaching you that are wrong. All right? So my theory is if we can get designers comfortable with the unpredictability of the real world, funnily enough, the predictable stuff that they've already been taught becomes super, super easy. All right? This is how we become design smart. Now, many will tell you that this particular diagram here is design smart, like this kind of interaction between creativity and business, corporate. So this is theoretically our creative brains and running our business as a creative person. People will say that in the center here, this is how you become design smart. But I think this is design smart. We do have to have a really good understanding of business, and there are some great platforms out there, some great educational spaces that look after this business side really, really well. Then there's the creative smart, and all of us here, anybody watching this has the creative smarts, all right? But the one thing that's not being brought in and not being thought about is client. We need to be client smart to become design smart. So think of this as the triple CD: clients, corporate, creativity. When you bring those three C's together, that is when you become design smart. So what does client smart look like in the real world? Let's take a little look at the design process just for shits and gigs, all right? This is effectively what we are taught. This is how I worked for many, many, many years. This one-size-fits-all process. Client comes in, we maybe give them some package prices. We maybe say, like, oh, it costs this much for a logo, it costs this much for a website, it costs this much for visual identity. Then they go, yeah, that's great. Then we do the creative. We have a certain set of revisions. We work in a certain way, but we do the same thing for every single client. And then we conclude, and then we finish, and then we're on to the next one. Do you know what I mean? We forget about that client and we're on to the next one. We think if we've done a great job for them, they don't need us anymore. This is what we're taught. But what if you did something more like this. And this, I believe, is the one size fits one process. And this has been working for me for many, many, many years. And it's been so interesting trying to kind of catalog it and organize it in a way that's actually out of my head and onto a piece of, it's not really a piece of paper, but to a sheet of pixels, if you know what I mean. So, what is the one size fits one process? I think this is how we build careers, all right? So at the beginning here, we have this sandbox, and this is pre-transaction. This is before a project's even started. But what you need to be doing is you need to be having calls with clients. And the problem is that what happens at the moment is that every conversation you'll generally have a client in involves money. And when you are talking about money, when you're talking about sales, you're automatically on the back foot. The client's on the back foot. There's no way of building relationships. It's all built around money, which is rubbish. So what I want you all to do is I want you to build in this sandboxing, this testing kind of area for yourself. So open up a calendar slot in your week and just invite clients to come and talk to you about design. But what you want to do in return is be able to ask them for their knowledge about their industry. And the beautiful thing is here is you will learn a huge amount, and there's no pressure on it because there's no money involved. There's no selling here. All you're doing is learning about their industry and they're learning about yours. 10, 15, 20-minute calls once a week with a random client. Done. And what this will help you do is become a much better communicator. All right. Now, when the client does eventually come to you and wants to work with you, you have to go through this defining the fit process. Now, we talk about this as like there are certain things you can do. You can create disc profiles so you can kind of start to understand how people work, what color they are. I go more into this in my programs that I'm building later on if you're interested in this. Like, if you want to become a design leader, this is the shit you need to know. So like really understanding how they think, how they work. Also, like, are they the right person for you? Is it the kind of work you want to do? This is the stuff that you need to be doing in this defining the fit area. Then we move into this kind of flexible expectations, which is this one size fits one process. And what you're doing here is you're very clearly talking to your clients. This is when all the kind of discovery stuff is happening. You know, you're kind of going through like all your kind of contracts and stuff. But what you're doing is you're having a very, very open dialogue. You're asking your client how they'd like to be communicated with. Some people love reading long, detailed emails. Some people like receiving texts. Some people like Loom videos. What you need to do is you need to let them know what your general process looks like and how you find your way of working is most effective. But what you then need to do is ask your client, like, does this work for you? You know, just that simple, bringing the client into this design process and making them feel safe in the environment will stop all the friction areas like scope creep. It will stop micromanaging. It will stop all the kind of hand holding, you know, during the process. Like when you go through this flexible expectations process, and what you say is like, this is my process. Like, does that work for you? They might go, well, in fact, do you know what? What I actually would prefer is that, like, I've got a bigger team and I've got a bigger board of directors, and I know what they want is they want 3 fully fleshed out ideas with mock-ups, and that will help me sell it to them. And you can go, okay, that's not a problem. But I will tell you something, it's going to take me a lot longer to do that. So it's actually going to cost you twice as much for me to do that. Is that okay? Yes or no? So this is why these flexible expectations are really, really important, because you're setting the ground rules, you're building in this safe communication area, and what you're doing is you're ultimately understanding that the client's perception is our reality. We are a service-based company. We obviously have a way of working and a way that our creativity works better, but we have to remember that this isn't for us. This is for them, all right? So we have to bring them in and make them feel welcome, all right? When we've kind of discovered all of that, we're then into the creative approval loop. Do you know what I mean? So you like that. I mean, everybody has their different ways of working, but what I can do is I can tell you the way I work. So I'd like to kind of, after the discovery and after all the contracts are signed and after all the conversations, the clarity discussions and all of these things, I will then create a load of sketches, send them over in a Loom video, and then what they will do is I will talk them through bits and pieces. And then what I'm doing is I'm talking them and I'm justifying all of my decisions based on all the stuff that we have learned together. What we are then doing is I'm trying to get them to approve the next stage. So I'll say, like, this is the direction I think we should go in. Do you have any thoughts, any ideas, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll come back with me with some feedback and say, yeah, I quite like this, but I also quite like this one up here. Is there any way we can mold it? And I'll go, yeah, no worries. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do A, B, C, or D. Is that okay with you? And then they go, yes. That means it's been approved. Then I move on to the next stage of the process, all right? And I keep moving forward. But what you want your clients to do is you want them to approve each stage, because that helps you move forward methodically through the creative process. And like I said, if you've set all these flexible expectations in the beginning, they're going to allow you and kind of let you crack on. And the other beautiful thing about this process, you can see how my brain is pinging around right now, is like throughout this whole process, what you need to do is you need to wow them, and you need to kind of put these little energy boosters in. So the way I think about that is, like, you think about a creative process. It starts like, imagine this is like energy in the project and this is length of the project. What generally happens is, like, client and designers energy starts high at the beginning of the project and tapers off. It's natural, do you know what I mean? Because we're always thinking about the next project. But what we want to do is we want to keep that energy high. So what we can do throughout this particular process is maybe send them gifts. We could maybe send them our sketches from our sketchbook, because what will happen is, their energy levels when they get these little gifts will be like this. And what they'll do is they'll be like, wow, that was an amazing gift. I'm going to talk about this person to all of my friends. And this is how you get this referral stuff happening, all right? Sorry, I got distracted there. But now we're into the Hand-over Cuddle. So this is where you become the trusted partner. So you finished all the creative work, everybody's happy. What you need to do is be very open and honest with your client now about maybe the future financial investments that they're going to have to make. Because, like, once a client has finished like a brand identity project or a visual identity project or whatever it is, sometimes they don't understand how much investment and time is needed after it. They have to maybe redo all their signage. They have to implement it across their website. They maybe have to change all their apparel. Maybe they have to fix all their internal documentation. What you can do here during this handover phase is actually openly suggest them, like, these are the things, because you know their business really well now, these are the things that I see coming up in the future for you. You're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do this. Would you like me to stay on for an extra 2 months, 3 months to help you initiate all this? They're more likely to say yes than they are going to go and find somebody else to do it. And again, what you do is you become this trusted partner in their business. So you almost become their creative director. And what happens here is, because you've done this, they keep coming back to you for even stuff that they know you can't do, but they might come to you and go, hey, James, can you create me an app for my new business? I mean, I can't do that, but I can find the right people who can do it. So I become the middleman and make money in the middle. But because I'm a trusted partner, they always come back to me. And this has been happening for the last 20 years. Well, that's a lie. Hasn't been happening for 20 years, but it's definitely been happening for 10, because in the beginning of my career, I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. But over the last 10, I've had a pretty good clue. So what you want to do is you want to become this trusted partner. And then aftercare, like, follow them on social media, follow up with them, send them gifts, remind them that you're around, send them, maybe some little, like, videos that you see that are working for other people in their industry to give them ideas on how to market themselves. Keep that relationship going. This is the one-size-fits-one process, and this is what makes you become a design leader. This particular process will help reduce friction. It will help reduce anxiety, and it will stop a lot of wasted time. It will also increase trust, innovation, and success, which takes you to design leader. And when you become a design leader, a whole world of opportunities open. Like whether you want to become an art director, a creative director, build your own agency, educate a generation of designers, write a book, create courses, You need to become that thought leader. You need to become that design leader. And it's processes like this which elevate you to that standard. The number one rule in business is not to win. It's just to stay in the game. You have to play the long game to thrive in this industry. All this chitter chatter about making as much money out of your clients as possible, leave your clients out of the process, they ruin it, blah, 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 is actually only focusing you on these short-term wins rather than the long-term objective of actually staying in the industry long enough to become a thought leader and a design leader. The best way to stay in the game is to retain the love of your clients. You need to create that biochemical romance. I mentioned it earlier, the oxytocin, the love hormone. Everybody's focused on dopamine, quick fix, addiction. Where oxytocin is the love drug. Do you know what I mean? It's the one that creates long-lasting relationships. It plays a crucial role in social bonding, trust, and building relationships. It's released through positive social interactions, acts of generosity, and cooperative behavior. We want to create this oxytocin love drug within our creative process because all of these things elevate trust and make our clients trust us. And when they trust us, they're going to shout from the mountaintops to all of their friends, all right? It's science, and there's no fooling science. So, to recap, number one, focus on a we process, not a me process. Number two, become design smart by focusing on the corporate, the client, and the creativity. CCC equals D. Triple C equals D. Number three, make your clients feel safe in the process, because when you make them feel safe in the process and you bring them in, like I said, it increases trust, it increases innovation, it increases the oxytocin, it increases success, all right? And these are all the things we want to build a career. And number four, don't be a cold-blooded loner. Thank you.